What if everything they taught you about life was a lie? What if the years you think you wasted were actually the most powerful of your existence? The Buddha said something almost no one truly understands, even today. Stay until the end. What you're about to hear will change the way you see every morning you have left. We've been lied to since childhood. We were told life is a race, that you have to succeed fast, shine young, accumulate before it's too late. Our parents said it, school repeated it, society plastered it everywhere, in ads, in movies, in the speeches of great men. Be ambitious, be productive, don't waste time. So we exhaust ourselves, we run, we accumulate, we sacrifice nights, relationships, moments of peace, chasing a horizon that keeps retreating as we advance. And when the years pass, we turn around and, in the silence of those rare moments when no one is watching, we ask ourselves what it was all for. But here's the problem. Most people ask that question far too late, not because they run out of time, but because they never learn to look at their life as anything other than a race. And are you still running? Are you living? Or are you still running towards something you never truly defined? Here is what the Buddha's ancient teachings reveal, something 99% of people have never heard. Life doesn't begin at 20, it doesn't begin at 40, it begins at 70. Not because you're old, not because you've seen it all, but because at 70, for the first time in your life, you are finally free. Free from illusions, free from masks, free from yourself, free from that inner voice that always told you weren't enough yet, not successful enough, not accomplished enough, not yet fully yourself. In this video, I'm going to reveal to you the 10 ancient teachings the Buddha passed on to his most advanced disciples, truths about time, about suffering, about identity, and about what it truly means to live. Truths that the greatest Buddhist traditions kept for centuries, not because they were secret, but because only those who had lived enough could truly receive them. And I warn you, what you're about to hear may unsettle you, because it will challenge everything you thought you knew about age, about success, about the passing of time, and about yourself. These teachings are not theories, they are truths that millions of beings have lived, tested, and proven in their flesh and in their soul through centuries of silent practice. So settle in, breathe, and let these words in. The first hidden truth: time is not what you think it is. In the Pali texts, the Buddha teaches a concept that few people dare to truly face: anicca, the impermanence of all things. But here's the thing, most people think anicca is about death, about endings, about loss. No, anicca speaks of the constant birth of every instant. Nothing stays, everything changes, even you. Every second that passes isn't a second lost, it's a second being born, existing fully, then transforming into something new. Think of a river. If you look at it this morning and return this evening, is it the same river? Physically, the water that flowed this morning is gone. Other water has taken its place, and yet the river is still there. The Greek philosopher Heraclitus said, "You never step into the same river twice." The Buddha went even further. He said, "You are never twice the same person stepping in. You too are constantly changing, imperceptibly but truly, and that's where everything changes." The young man of 20 who thinks time belongs to him is chasing something that never existed. He's chasing a fixed version of happiness, an imaginary finish line where everything will finally be perfect. But the sage of 70, who has weathered storms, losses, mistakes, and new beginnings, has understood. He no longer runs. He knows life isn't found at the finish line, it's found in every step, every fall, every rise, every ordinary morning seen with open eyes. And in the Buddhist sutras, that is precisely freedom, not the absence of suffering, but the capacity to be fully present in each moment, without fleeing it, without clinging to it. The Buddha told his oldest disciples, "You have an advantage the young do not yet have. You know that nothing lasts, and it is that knowledge which sets you free." Picture this. You are 70. Behind you, decades of life, immense joys, heartbreaking losses, choices you'd make again, others you regret. Mornings when you rose full of hope, nights when you wondered if any of it meant anything. people you loved, some still here, others gone, and yet you are still here, standing, breathing. That is not nothing. The Buddha calls this citta, the mind that survives everything, that passes through everything, and that, when cultivated, becomes over time unbreakable. Not unbreakable like a wall, unbreakable like water, which flows around obstacles, seeps into cracks, and always finds its way. It isn't youth that forges this mind, it's time, its experience, its pain transformed into wisdom. There's a Zen story I love deeply. A student asks his master, "Master, what is wisdom?" The master answers without hesitation, "Falling 7 times, rising 8. The student presses further, "And what is old age?" The master smiles, "Having fallen enough times to know that rising is always possible. At 70, you have fallen. You have risen again and again, and each time you rose, you added a layer to that invisible armor the Buddha calls living wisdom. But what you've just heard is only the surface, because the second truth goes even deeper, and it concerns something you do every day without realizing it, something that has been stealing your peace for years. The second hidden truth: you suffer because you mistook yourself for someone else. Few people realize this. There is a teaching in Buddhist philosophy that the Buddha reserved for his most mature disciples, not out of caprice, but because only someone who has lived long enough can truly hear it without rejecting it. This teaching is called anatta, the absence of a fixed self. Listen closely. For decades you built an identity, a name, a role, an image of yourself: parent, professional, spouse, believer, fighter. You defended that image, protected it like territory, and when someone questioned it, even gently, you felt attacked, wounded, threatened. But here's the problem. The Buddha says something radical. This you that you've defended your whole life never truly existed, not in a fixed way, not permanently. You are a river, not a rock. And all suffering comes from this fundamental error, believing you are a rock in a world of rivers. Imagine holding a clenched fist. In that fist you grip your identity, everything you believe you are, everything you've built. You grip so hard your knuckles turn white. And when life tries to move your fingers, when it brings you a loss, a grief, an unwanted change, you resist, you clench harder, and that resistance, that is the suffering. Not the event itself, but the resistance to the event. The young man clings to his ego because he still believes he has something to prove. But the one who is 70, who has lived through enough for his certainties to collapse one by one, begins to understand. He begins to let go, and in that letting go, something immense is set free. It isn't weakness, it's the greatest victory a human being can win. In the Buddhist monasteries of Southeast Asia, the most respected monks are never the youngest. They are always the elders, whose eyes carry decades of inner silence, not because they know more, but because they have unlearned more. They've unlearned fear, unlearned the need to please, unlearned the illusion of control, unlearned the need to be right. And in that unlearning, they've become light, free, more alive than ever. The Thai monk Ajahn Chah told his disciples, "If you let go a little, you will have a little peace. If you let go a lot, you will have a lot of peace. If you let go completely, you will know complete peace." This isn't a metaphor, it's a practical instruction for living. And at 70, you have something the young don't yet have. You have suffered enough from attachment to begin truly seeing that letting go isn't losing. Letting go is finally receiving what you've always been searching for. But wait, because the third truth is one no one expects to hear, and it will completely turn around the way you see the years ahead. The third hidden truth: old age is a door, not an ending. In the Dhammapada, one of the most sacred Buddhist texts, it is written that it is better to live a single day seeing awakening than 100 years remaining blind. One single day lived in full awareness is worth more than an entire lifetime of unconscious agitation. And here's what that truly means. The modern world tells you that aging means losing your beauty, your strength, your place in society. Advertisements sell you anti-aging creams. The media shows you smooth faces as if wrinkles were a shame. But few people realize this. The Buddha saw things exactly the opposite way. He taught that the human mind reaches its full maturity, its true capacity for awakening, only after passing through enough trials. A tree bears fruit only after years of growth. A mountain is beautiful only because time has sculpted it. The finest wine is the one that had time to age in the silent darkness of a cellar. And you who have weathered storms, illusions, new beginnings, griefs, unexpected joys, you are that tree, that mountain, that rare wine, and that's where everything changes. In Theravada Buddhism, there's a fundamental distinction between two types of wisdom. The first is Suttamaya Panna, wisdom acquired through study, books, texts, teachings. The second is Bhavanamaya Panna, wisdom born of direct experience, the kind that cannot be read, cannot be passed on through words, that can only arise from a life fully lived, with its joys, its pains, its mistakes, and its transformations. And this second wisdom is the one that deepens with age. Most people never truly live, even past 80, not because they lacked the capacity, but because no one ever told them that aging was an opportunity, not a decline, an opportunity. And you're still here, still listening, still searching. That means something. At 70, you're not finishing, you're beginning to radiate what a whole life has taught you to be. And that radiance is what Buddhism calls karuna, deep compassion, the kind that doesn't come from theory but from lived pain, transformed and offered to others as a gift. The next truth is even deeper, and it will show you that you carry within you a treasure you may never have recognized. The fourth hidden truth: your past suffering is your most precious treasure. There's something the modern world refuses to accept. Suffering is not a mistake, not an obstacle on the path, not proof that your life went wrong. Suffering is the path. And you might be making the mistake almost everyone makes, looking at your past trials as scars to hide, as proof of your failures, your weaknesses, your bad choices. But here's what the Buddha reveals in the Four Noble Truths. The first is dukkha, the suffering inherent to all existence, not to condemn, not to bring despair, but to say this: suffering is the most honest teacher you will ever have. It doesn't flatter you, it doesn't spare you, it tells you what is true. A child who touches fire learns in a split second what 1,000 warnings never could have taught. And you who have suffered, who have cried through entire nights with no one knowing, who have carried burdens no one else could see, who kept moving forward when everything in you wanted to stop, you have received a teaching no one can buy, no one can steal, and no diploma can certify. You never lacked time, you were simply distracted by the fear that you didn't have enough, and that fear kept you from seeing what you were becoming. You know what it is to stand tall when everything collapses. You know what it is to lose someone you love, to start over from zero, to trust again after betrayal, to hope again after disappointment. That knowledge, that silent, invisible, deep strength, becomes over the years a light that guides those around you, even if you don't realize it. The most effective therapists aren't the ones who read the most books, they're the ones who walked through their own darkness and came back. The wisest parents aren't the ones who got everything right, they're the ones who made mistakes, owned them, and turned them into living lessons. In Tibetan Buddhism, there's a beautiful concept, bodhicitta, the awakened mind. Tibetan teachers say that bodhicitta isn't found in comfort, it's found in conscious suffering, in pain welcomed with openness rather than rejected with resistance. Every trial you've endured was a seed of bodhicitta planted in you. At 70, those seeds have had time to grow. Every scar you carry is an invisible medal, not of shame, of pride. But it's not over, because the fifth truth will reveal a secret even beginner Buddhists often don't know. And this secret radically changes the way you live each remaining day. The fifth hidden truth: silence is the highest form of intelligence. The world rewards those who speak loudly, who have an answer for everything, who fill every silence, whose voice occupies the space the moment it opens up. But here's the problem: that logic is a prison. And you might still be making this mistake, believing your worth is measured by what you produce, what you say, what you show. The Buddha taught exactly the opposite. In the Theravada tradition, there's a fundamental concept, mona, conscious silence, not the absence of words out of shyness, but the deliberate, powerful, intentional choice to let silence speak, because silence sometimes says what words never can. When was the last time you sat in silence without trying to fill it? No phone, no television, no thought racing toward tomorrow or yesterday. Just you, just now, just silence. The wisest people you've met in your life speak little. They observed, they listened, and when they opened their mouths, every word carried weight. Every sentence held something you couldn't quite define but could feel. The Buddha himself spent entire days in silence, not because he had nothing to say, but because he knew some truths cannot be conveyed through words, they must be felt. There's a Zen tradition story that illustrates this perfectly. A student visits a Zen master and asks him questions for hours, showing off everything he knows. The master, silent, begins pouring tea. He pours and pours more. The cup overflows. Tea spills across the table. The stunned student cries out, "Master, the cup is full." The master sets down the teapot and says calmly, "Like this cup, you are full of your own opinions. How can I show you Zen if you don't first empty your cup? Let go, empty out, receive." Letting go isn't losing. Letting go is freeing yourself. Letting go is living. At 70, life has emptied out many things, and that emptied cup is now ready to receive something infinitely more precious. The Buddha calls this upekkha, equanimity, that deep quality of mind that no longer gets carried away, no longer reacts impulsively, that observes life with a serenity neither joy nor pain can shake. It isn't indifference, it's a presence so complete, so deep, that you can feel everything without being swept away, without being broken. And this quality is cultivated over time, over the years, through trials faced with full awareness. It's a gift youth cannot yet receive. But what you've just discovered about silence is only part of the truth. What you're about to hear will show you why the ancients called this silence the gateway to the infinite. The sixth hidden truth: you are interconnected with everything that exists. The Buddha taught something modern science is only now beginning to confirm. Pratitya samutpada, the interdependence of all things. Nothing exists alone. Nothing is born alone. Nothing dies alone. And few people realize this. Every phenomenon in the universe arises in dependence on other phenomena. Think of a simple cup of tea you might drink tonight. For it to exist, a farmer had to plant leaves in distant soil. There had to be rain, sun, seasons. Thousands of hands had to prepare it, transport it, carry it to you. That simple cup contains within it the invisible effort of thousands of human beings. And you too, you contain within you the invisible effort of thousands of beings, of everyone who loved you, everyone who hurt you and taught you something in the process, everyone who came before you and left you a world in which you could grow. You are not alone. You never were. And that's where everything changes. The young man thinks he's alone against the world, that he must build everything by himself, that his worth is measured by what he accomplishes through his own strength. But the elder, who has watched generations be born and pass on, understands this interconnection in his bones. He knows that when he smiles at a stranger, something shifts in the universe. He knows that when he offers his wisdom to someone younger, he plants a seed he may never see bloom, but it will bloom anyway. In the villages of Sri Lanka, elders are never pushed aside, they're placed at the center, because the community instinctively knows what the modern world has forgotten. An elder who has understood his interconnection with life is an irreplaceable resource, not a burden, not a relic of the past, a living compass. His very existence is a teaching. Quantum physicists have discovered something extraordinary. Two particles that have been in contact remain connected even thousands of kilometers apart. If one changes state, the other changes instantly. Scientists call this quantum entanglement. The Buddha, 2,500 years ago, called it pratitya samutpada. And if this sixth truth has opened a door for you, get ready. The next truth goes even deeper, and it will reveal the ultimate secret of a happy old age. The seventh hidden truth: letting go isn't giving up, it's triumphing. Upadana, in Pali, refers to attachment, that invisible force that pushes us to cling to people, roles, memories, unfulfilled dreams, and for decades, you clung. You clung to an image of yourself, to relationships, to ambitions, to a certain idea of what your life should have been, maybe to a resentment you've carried for years, like a stone in your pocket, heavy, useless, but familiar. And you might still be making this mistake, believing that letting go of that stone is betraying something. But here's what the Buddha reveals in the teachings of the Majjhima Nikaya. Letting go is not defeat. It is the most courageous act a human being can perform. Letting go isn't losing. Letting go is freeing yourself. Letting go is living. A closed fist can receive nothing. An open hand can receive the whole world. There's a story the Buddha himself used to tell. A woman comes to him, mad with grief, carrying in her arms the body of her dead son. She begs, "Buddha, you who are awakened, bring my son back to life." The Buddha looks at her with infinite compassion and says, "Go to every house in the village and bring me a mustard seed, but only from a house that has never known death." The woman leaves, knocks on every door, and in every house, the same answer. We too have lost someone. By day's end, she understands. She understands that loss is not unique to her, that it is part of the human condition. She returns to the Buddha without the seed, but with something new in her eyes. She had let go, and in that letting go, she had found peace. At 70, you have the rare opportunity to set down every burden you're still carrying, because your worth was never dependent on what you carried. It comes from what you are. And what you are cannot be lost, cannot age, cannot die. And it's not over, because the eighth truth will speak to something you may already be feeling right now, something you may never have dared to name. The eighth hidden truth. Deep joy belongs only to souls that have suffered. There are two kinds of happiness. The first is the one the world sells you fast, loud, dependent on outer circumstances, a promotion, a trip, a like on social media. That happiness is real, but it's fragile, and it evaporates as quickly as it came, like foam on water. And you might still be making this mistake, still chasing that kind of happiness, while another kind waits for you infinitely deeper, infinitely more lasting. The Buddha calls it mudita, a joy that depends on nothing, not circumstances, not others' opinions, not health, not money. It's a joy that rises from within, like an underground spring that has been flowing silently forever. And here's the secret no one tells you, that joy can only be born in a heart that has suffered, not because suffering is beautiful, but because it is what digs deep enough within you for that joy to settle in permanently. A shallow glass overflows at the smallest drop, but a deep well, carved by years of hardship, can hold oceans. Think of the most radiant people you've known in your life, those whose joy was contagious without being forced, whose smile seemed to come from somewhere very deep, very calm. I'd bet they weren't people who had never suffered, quite the opposite. They were people who had suffered deeply, and who, through that suffering, discovered that joy isn't a reward, it's a nature. Their nature, your nature, the nature of every conscious being who has had the courage to walk through their darkness without losing themselves. When was the last time you were truly at peace, not satisfied, not relieved, not distracted, but truly at peace? That peace still exists within you. It never disappeared. It was only waiting for you to stop running so it could catch up with you. At 70, your well is deep. That depth is there, waiting for you, and the ninth truth will show you how to reach it, starting with your very next breath. The ninth hidden truth. Every breath is a new life. This is the teaching of mindful breathing, one of the oldest and most powerful practices the Buddha ever passed on. But here's the problem. Most people think it's a relaxation technique, a meditation app, a wellness exercise. No, it's a revelation. Every time you breathe in, you receive life. Every time you breathe out, you release what is no longer needed. And between the two, in that micro space between the end of the exhale and the beginning of the next inhale, there is a moment of pure silence, pure presence. Just now, just you, just this. The Buddha said that space is the doorway to awakening, not a metaphor, a reality. And you have access to that doorway thousands of times a day. There's a simple practice that Buddhist monks share with their oldest disciples, not the young ones, the elders, because it's a practice that requires having already lived enough of life to no longer need to do, only to be. The practice is this: each evening, before you close your eyes to sleep, place one hand gently over your heart and simply notice its rhythm for a few seconds. Not to change it, not to control it, just to notice that it's still beating, that it has beaten faithfully through every joy and every storm of your life, without ever asking anything in return. Then let one thought surface, one thing, however small, that this particular day allowed you to feel. Not a grand realization, just one honest thing, and let that be enough. No further analysis, no need to fix anything, just the beat and the one true thing. And in that quiet gesture, something resets, not dramatically, but subtly, deeply, really. At 70, your heart has beaten for decades without pause, and perhaps for the first time, you have the time and the wisdom to truly feel what each beat is telling you. That you are alive, that you are present, that you are enough, exactly as you are. Before I reveal the 10th and final truth, I want to ask you something. If this video has already shifted something in you, share it now, not later. Now, because someone in your life is waiting for exactly these words without knowing it. Someone who doubts, someone afraid of growing old, someone who believes the best is already behind them. Share and stay with me, because the 10th truth is the one the Buddha kept for the very end, and it will change everything. The 10th hidden truth. You already are what you've always been trying to become. Your whole life, you've been running after something: success, love, security, recognition, inner peace. And in certain dark moments, you may have told yourself, I haven't gotten there yet, I'm missing something, I'm still not enough. But here's the problem, and it may be the deepest mistake a human being can make, believing that something is missing. Because here is what the Buddha teaches in the concept of Tathagata Garbha, one of the most striking ideas in Mahayana Buddhism. Every human being carries within them, from birth, the nature of awakening, not as a goal to reach, but as an already present reality, already there, already you. You are not an imperfect being racing toward perfection. You are an already complete being learning to remember what you are. Think of gold in the earth, surrounded by rock, mud, impurities, but the gold is there. It doesn't need to be created. It just needs to be uncovered. And you, every trial you've endured, every pain you've lived through, every transformation you've undergone, none of it created your worth. It revealed what was already there, the love you're capable of giving, the wisdom you've gathered without even realizing it, the depth of your gaze, the gentleness of your presence, the quiet strength of someone who weathered the storm and is still standing. All of it was already in you from the start. Life didn't build you. It revealed to you what you've been searching for all along, and what was already there. Nothing was missing. Nothing was ever missing. You were just looking in the wrong place. And at 70, after decades of life, of mistakes, of victories, of tears and laughter, that memory returns, not all at once, not dramatically, but like the sun rising slowly, gently. Inevitably first, just a thread of light on the horizon, then the colors unfolding, then the warmth returning, then the clarity flooding everything. And when that light rises within you, you realize you had nowhere to go, that everything you were searching for was already there in every ordinary moment, in every cup of tea drunk in silence at sunrise, in every conversation where you truly listened to someone, in every moment you chose kindness over reaction, in every night you got through with courage, in every morning you began again with faith. That is the life that begins at 70. Not a fresh start, not a new youth, a return to yourself, the deepest, most authentic, most liberating return of all. A return to who you always were, before the world told you who you had to be. If these words touched something in you, then this video was for you. It wasn't made for everyone, it was made for those still searching, for those who feel there's still something to understand, something to receive, something to become. Subscribe to the Buddhist Wisdom channel so these teachings can walk with you each week on this path. Leave a like, one small gesture that lets these words reach someone else who needs them tonight. Share this video. You never know who in your life has been waiting for exactly these words today. And in the comments, write down one word, just one word, that describes what you feel most ready to let go of. Not the perfect word, just yours, the one that rises from the heart. Offer it to others. You never know how many lives it might touch. You were never behind. You were only becoming.